On this episode of Order Dog TV, I'm going to show you how to order items from unmanaged vendors. Working with unmanaged vendors is an easy three-step process. Before we get started, it's helpful to have an old invoice that will give us some much-needed information as well as a few products from the vendor, and we'll also need access to your computer as well as our iPal scanner. Feel free to pause the video now to grab these things we need. Okay, now that we have everything, let's log on to the iPortal. The first step that we need to complete is to create an unmanaged vendor record. To do this, we will go to the Vendors tab by going to Inventory, then Vendors, and then we will click on the Add New button, and then we'll finish by clicking Add Unmanaged Vendor. Now that we have our vendor add window open, we will reference our invoice to complete the screen. We'll be transferring the vendor's name, address, telephone, and fax numbers to the General tab. I normally start at the top and I work the way down. So I'll start here with the name, and I'm going to work with Membrel as the vendor. I'll have to put that in two places here. And next I'll work on the address, usually the street address here first, which is 2213 Missouri Avenue. And then we're going to finish up here on this part here with the city, and then we can pick our state, and we've got our zip code here of 64836, and we can use our copy address of shipping, or if they have another address here, maybe they have a building across the street, 2215 Missouri Avenue. And same city and state, and zip is the same as well. And we'll want to fill in our phone number as well as our fax number for the vendor. I'll finish this tab by entering the phone number and fax number and then clicking on Save Changes. As with any other vendor, we need to fill in the account info. So we'll click on the Account Info tab, type in our account number, and we'll click on Add, and that's it. The most important part of creating an unmanaged vendor is to enter the delivery method. It's important to know that your orders to unmanaged vendors will be faxed, so you will need to double check with the vendor to make sure they accept faxed orders. Assuming this is the case, let me show you where we store the fax number for the vendor. At this point, you'll still have the Add Vendor window open on the Account Info tab. To enter the delivery method, you simply click on Delivery Settings, and we'll click to select the fax option, and we'll enter in our fax number, making sure to put in the hyphens. You'll finish this up simply by clicking on Save Changes. As you can tell, the first part of our process is easy. The biggest thing to remember is to enter the correct fax number in the vendor's delivery settings. Now, step 2 is creating an unmanaged item record. For this step, you're going to need the iPal scanner and a few products that you order from the vendor. From the OrderDog main screen, we're going to select Item Edit, and then we'll be able to scan our item. At this time, the iPal scanner is going to connect to the web and try and find your item. It should only take a few seconds, and it's going to return the question, would you like to add this item? We're going to select Yes. At this point, we can activate our input panel, and we can select the brand field, and we can type in the brand name. We can follow up with the description. Now we can close the input panel and fill in our selling price. And we can finish the item record by selecting F10 Save. And that's all there is to creating an unmanaged item. Now I can move on to our final step, which is creating a link between the unmanaged vendor record and the unmanaged item record that we just created. For this step, we will need the IPAL, and we may need the invoice again to find the item ID and pricing information for the item. Let's finish this up. At this point, you should still be on the item edit screen on the IPAL. At this time, we want to exit out, so we'll select F1 exit, and we'll click on send and receive, and we'll simply click on F2 start send and receive. What we're doing here is we're sending up the unmanaged item record, and we're bringing down the unmanaged vendor record. As soon as the send and receive gets completed here, we'll be able to finish up the process. With the send and receive complete, you should see finished at the top, and we just simply click on F1 exit, and we're going to go back into the item edit screen. And at this point, we can scan our item again, and we'll see that the item is populated very quickly. This time the IPAL doesn't have to think or look for it. It's already on the system. And what we're going to do from the item edit screen here is we're going to create a link. From here, you'll notice the center of the page between the F4 and the F5 button, there's the title of the tab. The title of this tab here is Price Settings, and we're going to scroll over using the F5 button until we see Vendors. Once we find Vendors, we're going to select the Add New option, selecting the drop-down and clicking on Add New. Here we'll have our Add Item Vendor window, and we can simply start by clicking the drop-down arrow, finding our vendor, and then we can update the vendor record here with the item number of the vendor. And the UPC is going to be defaulted for us here. And we have our minimum, our multiple, our max, and our divisor fields that we can fill in if we need to order this item by minimum of 3 or multiples of 6. If we do, we would just change that information here. So let's say this one here we have to order in multiples of 3 with a minimum of 3. And this item here has an MSRP of $9.99. And the price field here is actually going to be your wholesale price. So you would put in here what you're going to pay for it. And then you simply finish this record by selecting OK. Last, we'll click on F10 Save. And that's it. Okay, that's it. We're done. Now we can simply repeat steps 2 and 3 for the remaining items from this vendor. Once all the items have been linked, you're ready to start ordering. Remember, you can always view this and other helpful information on OrderDog's knowledge base at support.orderdog.com. And be sure to follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/OrderDog. We look forward to a long and successful partnership with you. For OrderDog TV, I'm Daryl Godfrey. Thanks for watching.